Traveling is a perfect example of like, I want this trip to be perfect. I'm going to plan it down to the T, the whole schedule. And then that always gets blown in the water. Flights are canceled. There's a raid, there's a riot, there's a uprest, there's a change of plans. You always have to pivot. The restaurant's closed that you thought you were going to go to. So you're kind of always adjusting. And if you can't be happy in that process, then you're going to go through your life just being frustrated and miserable because your plans didn't work out.
Welcome to Success Reimagined. I am Dr. Amna Shabbir, your host on this journey to thrive at the intersection of ambition and wellness. In every episode, I'll help you challenge outdated definitions of success, discover practical tools and strategies for growth without compromising your well-being. I am so glad you've joined me. Let's reimagine what's possible together. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, I have a very special guest, very special to my heart. Her name is Amanda Hill. Amanda is joining us. Amanda Hill is a dedicated advocate for physicians with over 23 years of experience in the healthcare sector. She began her career working for the U.S. government, defending large hospitals, and later served as general counsel for a multi-specialty group and a federally qualified health center in Austin, Texas. In 2015, she founded Hill Health Law Group to focus on representing physicians, assisting them with contract negotiations, compliance, and practice management. Amanda is also the author of key legal manuals for the Texas Medical Association and has developed a video platform, Guard My Practice, designed to help doctors navigate legal challenges. She is the human that I believe every physician should have in their corner. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I've been looking forward to it all day.
Thank you so much. So I know that today we're going to be talking about perfectionism and really like just jumping straight into it. During these conversations that I have been having with wonderful high achievers, the word perfectionism and the way we perceive it has been very interesting for me to hear what everyone's interpretation is. So what is your interpretation of the word perfectionism?
Well, I sort of consider myself a chronic perfectionist. So, in my opinion, it's really striving to just be not just the best at what you do, but the absolute best in every single thing you do, which means you obsess about details. It takes a really long time. You never think you're done, right? There's always one more thing you can add to it to make it even better. It's a challenge. And many, many high achievers, type A personalities, CEOs, lawyers and doctors, we all fall prey to this condition. And it's a blessing and a curse, right? The things we churn out are really good. Then people set expectations of it always being really good. And we feel like we can't let down our family or our clients or our patients. And it becomes such a problem. And then the anxiety starts to hit. So it's certainly something that I feel is important to talk about.
That's a very interesting way of, how you framed it. Like there's always one more thing that you can do. It's never enough. You're constantly feeling that gaping hole that comes from, okay, one more tweak, one more. It's like you're actually really leaning into your arrival fallacy and never really getting there.
Absolutely. That's a good way to put it. I mean, it's not just in one part of our life. That's the thing. It's not just like, oh, I'm a perfectionist at work, but at home, like I'm really loosey-goosey. Usually, the sad part about type A people, it extends to all the different areas of your life, And I am the biggest culprit of this. If I throw a dinner party, it has to be perfect. All right. I need the flowers to be perfect. I want the sporks and the knives to be lined up correctly. I want the soup to be the best soup you've ever had. I want every course to shine. I mean, that's a lot of pressure on a dinner. Same thing with a legal memo or an email or something I'm working on. I want it to be the best. Did I include enough sites? Did I edit it enough? Can I make it stronger? Could it be more powerful? When I'm advocating, this is the worst, is when your clients are paying you by the hour to advocate for them. And you think, it can be stronger. I can do more, and it's exhausting. And I think the hardest thing that I have had to do in practicing law for 24 years, and not just that, but in everything I do, whether it's home life, work life, is just saying it is enough. Like, first of all, the work that you do is probably 80% better than most people anyway. So you have to just say, put a stop to it because you have to enjoy the meal. You have to push send on the email. You have to close your chart. And so I think at some point you have to mentally, and I do it every single day, I mentally tell myself, I'm giving you permission to push send on that email. I'm giving you permission to sit here and not stress about one more thing that you didn't do. You did enough. But I mean, it literally takes my internal brain convincing my other self that it is okay. I give you permission to set your weapons down. You're done. And I think that if we've got to train ourselves to do that.
Wow. That sounds very intentional. And I will circle back to this because I think this is something we all need to really work to cultivate. But take us back a little bit towards some moment of your life. And it can be as early as you can remember. And that was the first time you felt, wow, I need to be perfect.
Oh my gosh. The first time probably is like when you get married and you have children, right? It has to be perfect. And let me tell you the example of my daughter. So I arranged the nursery perfectly, right? Because they're in the womb. They're not bothering you at that point. So, you have full control. These are control freak tendencies. And then you get the breast pump and you read the books and you're the manuals and you're going to be the perfect mother and everything is going to be absolutely perfect. And I had a doula that was in there with me in the birthing suite and I had my birth plan. It's like control freak city. I am going to be in charge of this. This is going to be perfect. I've thought of every single detail. And I look back and laugh at all of those dreams, and those ideals because life does not work that way, and then what happens is it throws you curveball after curveball after curveball. And I think that sometimes people think, I've faced my hard thing. I went through cancer or I survived a horrible job situation. And, now I'm on the upswing and these things won't happen anymore. Like, woohoo, I did my challenge of life and now I'm done. It never stops. It never, ever stops. So you have to always pivot. So, my perfect birth, the perfect life and marriage and family and all that. Well, I was born and I had a staph infection after my daughter was born and I was in the hospital and I got septic and it was a real nightmare. And so much for the breastfeeding and so much for the perfect meal, so much for everything that I thought I was going to do. I mean, to the point where even her first year, near a sugar crumb would enter her lips. Everything was organic. It was so trying to be so perfect. It's exhausting. And you finally realize at her first birthday, instead of smashing cake in your face, she's eating like a raisin studded applesauce baked chunk of gross. And you're like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I cannot make this perfect. So you love people, you accept them, you give joy, and then you have to just say, I'm doing enough. And now, of course, my children are older. That was a long time ago. Now my daughter's in college and she calls me when she's sick or when she needs money. But I still rest on that. I am done enough. Even though today I still wish I did more. And how could I be better? What could I do to be a better mother? And even perfectionism in that level has to stop. And you have to say, you know what? I'm doing the best with the talents that I've been given and the emotional bandwidth that I have right now. And it's like push send on that email. Click yes, that you're being a good mom. Click the box that you're doing well in your job. So that's probably one of my first actual examples of, this did not go as I expected, even though I planned it. So, yeah.
I feel like you're sitting in my mind and you're watching me have my own thoughts. This is why these conversations are so powerful
Yeah.
because I never thought that I would have a C-section. I mean, and you were so sick, you got septic. I never thought like, okay, I'm going to have two C-sections, like all birthing plans. And it's like all those feelings where perfectionism really wants us to hold on to control. And then we have to just start like letting go of all of this. And I love that you said that you'll have the worst thing and you're a cancer survivor and you'll get to the other side and it's going to be okay. But it's a process.
It's a process. And, I think one of the things that's really taught me a lot is traveling. Right? Because traveling is a perfect example of like, I want this trip to be perfect. I'm going to plan it down to the T, the whole schedule. And then that always gets blown in the water. Flights are canceled. There's a raid, there's a riot, there's a uprest, there's a change of plans. You always have to pivot. The restaurant's closed that you thought you were going to go to. So you're kind of always adjusting. And if you can't be happy in that process, then you're going to go through your life just being frustrated and miserable because your plans didn't work out. And I think that that overlays a lot with perfectionism, right? I want this to be so perfect. And when it doesn't go my way, I end up getting snappy at other people that don't align with exactly the way I want it, right? You're not patient with change. And you end up looking back at your whole life and you thought most of it was frustrated and angry. instead of adapting and pivoting and being flexible and sort of using humor to say, well, that figures. you know? So I'm a huge fan of humor, as you might know, but just part of it is just learning to say, well, of course that would happen. All my best laid plans did not work out. Now, does that mean I'm not a perfectionist anymore? Not really. I still kind of am, but I know it and I can plan around it and I can sort of laugh at myself for it. Right. And my friends know it too. That's the thing. You look at ourselves and our pitfalls, and we're given strengths and we have talents, but we also have the dark side, right? Which is
Yeah.
control tendencies and perfectionism and all those things that come along with the good. And so we just have to balance it and recognize when one's getting really out of balance and tone that down, but realize we're never going to make it go away. I'm never going to just throw stuff together
Yes.
ever. You're not going to come to my house and eat on paper plates. It's just not going to happen. Okay. And so that you just have to recognize that about yourself. But it's also wonderful because all of the people that you're talking to, I'm so proud of you for putting yourself out there, by the way, because these people are all interesting, high achieving wealth of knowledge that you can mine. And we can try to talk to the younger generation, the newer doctors, people coming up that were like, oh, I thought that was just me. This community is everything to say, if we have been through it, and we face that and we still do every day. I mean, even some of my heroes, I'm sure wake up someday and think, God, I look fat in these jeans. Man, I could do more. I'm really not hitting my goals. And you think you, of all people who've done so much and you're so amazing, it's like Oprah, still has these insecurities. And so I think with perfectionism, we have to realize that we're human. Everyone is facing the same pressures and we have to encourage each other. And, not in a fake way, not like, don't worry about it. The worst is when you say, your feelings are dumb, or you should stop doing those things. Or like a friend of mine is going through what she thinks might be cancer, right? She hasn't gotten the diagnosis back. And the worst thing I can do is to say, don't worry about it. It's probably nothing. That doesn't help.
Yeah.
Instead, I can say, okay, well, let's talk about the worst case scenario. They caught it early. You're going to be able to be okay. I'm here for you if you need me, right? So we meet people where we are. And I think that when we're dealing with perfectionism, we can't eliminate it. We got to deal with it.
There's so much there that you just said, like such high yield information. Everything that you've said, it's so real and honest because I coach high achievers. I do all of that stuff, but I always try to model humanity. It's not like there's not the hero's journey and you're like on the other side. There's no such thing. That right there is then perpetuating further falsehood that as if there's some airbrushed version of life that is better than the other. And that's where you have to I'm going to get you there because I'm there. And I just love that you mentioned that. I also love that you talked about humor and insight. Humor is one of my core values. It's up
Me
there with
too.
integrity. Love it.
Oh, well, it's a great connector. When you really think about it, certain things that you'd think would be unifying, like maybe, I hate to get religious, but in certain religious settings, like, we want to unify, we want to bring people together, we want to showcase good, beautiful things, but it ends up being really siloed. You are not specifically like me. We are not, we are enemies. Whereas humor surpasses all ethnicities, all genres, all religions, everything. No one can deny when someone's really funny. And what I found in life is you're drawn to people that are funny. Why is that? Right? Because it creates these bubbles inside of you of lightness and laughter, and you feel better after talking to them and hanging out with them. And that's what we all should strive for, is to say, I want to put that joy into the world because it's so heavy right now. Whatever, pick your poison, of whatever you're feeling heavy about. And so I think that if you can't have humor to make fun of yourself, then you're going to have a very sad, depressing life, because all high performing people are going to be under huge levels of stress, whether you're operating on someone and saving lives, whether you're protecting, in my case, doctors from getting in major legal trouble or getting them out of it, or, whether you're negotiating or whatever the situation is that's causing that kind of pressure. Where's the release valve? It can't be booze all the time. It can't be these unhealthy coping skills. It has to be something that is joyful, that brings you out of it. And making fun of yourself is key. I mean, you have to be able to be like, of course I'm a squirrel and I put this stuff all over the place and I can't find anything. Of course, my ADHD and my anxiety is hitting me right now and I need to be focused, and that kind of brings you down. I mean, humor can make us all relate to each other better and bring us to a different level where we can breathe again and go, that made me feel so much better about myself. I'm not the only one. And I find that really affirming. And that's why I have such a close circle of friends and colleagues and professionally and otherwise, because we cannot do it alone. It's a sad race when you're running it alone.
Absolutely. And humor as a great connector, as a way to humanize ourselves, connect, and also like a wonderful antidote to perfectionism in a way, when you de escalate a situation. Stepping back a little bit, one thing I want to ask you as you talk about pressing send on that email or being okay with not having the paper plates and it's okay, now we're doing the other setup or any other, there's something that stops us from pressing send or from inviting those people into our houses or signing those documents and closing those charts. And it's almost this fear. If you were to look inwards at yourself or other humans that you've helped, what do you think is a fear that you might have faced when it comes to perfectionism in specific that keeps you paralyzed or kept you paralyzed?
I don't think it's as much now, to be honest. I've grown a lot, but I think in the past, and maybe even sometimes now, and I don't see it, is I'm supposed to be the expert, right? I'm supposed to be the one people turn to. And if I give a wrong answer, or if I lead them slightly astray, or if I don't keep that standard high, they'll look down upon me. It's an insecurity, really, that they're going to think that I am not as smart as I think I am, or that I profess to be online, or they're not going to see me as this wonderful, creative person that they see on stage. They're going to find me out. I mean, imposter syndrome is really co-mingled with perfectionism, right? They're going to find out. And I remember early on when I started practicing law, right, is my law firm, my name on the door. So my emails have to stand on their own, right? I can't be like, I don't know, I'll run it by my partner and see what they think about it. It's just me. So when I push send and they come back to ask questions, I'm it. So that was really hard. How can I profess to be the expert? I've only been, when I started out, I was like, I've only been doing this 15 years. I don't know that much. And I oftentimes don't know the answer. And so the most liberating thing, and I will tell this to so many doctors that are crippled with this, is to be comfortable with saying, I don't know. I don't
Mhm.
know. And when they say, what do you think about this home health center joint venture and this thing? Or what do you think? Is this illegal, this specific setup? And maybe I've never faced that specific scenario before. And I go, I don't know. I'll have to look it up. Or I also don't have all the statutes memorized in my brain, right? I'm going to have to research that. I haven't looked at that in a while. Just with the doctor saying the same thing. I don't know really what's wrong with you. I'm not an idiot. I just need to rule some stuff out, right? That's the purpose of differential diagnosis. And so to say, I don't know, but you know what? I'm going to be there right with you and we're going to find out together. And if you give me a little bit of time, then I'm going to put my brain on it and I'm going to use the skills that I've hardwired in to figure it out. And I think that that's liberating and it's beautiful. And for perfectionist is like a get out of jail free card, right? I don't know. And you have to trust that the other person on the other side does not think you're an idiot. And the
Wow.
worst is like, let's put the high stakes situation. You're on a panel in
Yeah.
front of a huge banquet room, huge hall, right? You're the big panelist of experts. I've been there so many times. And someone asks a question and you are petrified because you're like, I'm going to seem like a fraud. I just gave the speech on this and now they're going to ask me and I don't know. And man, the best thing you can do is laugh at yourself. I've done this so many times. Laugh at yourself and be like, I don't know. That is a very good question that happened like last month. And it was a specific question on how to allocate something in Stark, and I couldn't remember. And I said, I don't know. And then one time that someone even from the audience called me out and said, actually, I think there's an exception for this, that, and the other. And I was like, you're probably right. But guess what? I'm still an expert, even though they caught me on something or I had to say, I don't know. Because until the point where we can insert AI directly into our brains, we're not going to be the expert and we're not going to be perfect. And there's going to be a typo. And I remember when I was clerking with the Supreme Court of Texas, I was so paranoid that I'd make one mistake, one dot, one I, one error. It's like, but what would happen? What would happen? Would the world come falling down? No. It's like, what was I so scared of? And so that's the thing, when you can't close your chart, you're so afraid this speech isn't perfect, you're going over the slides a million times. I'm like, set it down. You just
Yeah.
set it down. Like you're not going to get to that, like you said, that arrival fallacy. You're never going to get there.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay. And then you have to move on from that and laugh about it and say, well, I'm going to look that up next time. Or the next time I see a patient with this funky set of symptoms, I might actually We recognize it, and that's great. And I think it's just so hard, especially people that are raised to be doctors, to be lawyers, to be so good at things. It's hard to feel like you're letting yourself down, but you're not. You're just being a human.
Wow, I think I'm going to take all that advice for myself for next week, Amanda. As we're recording this, I am set to give a really big grand rounds presentation on perfectionism.
Oh, what nice.
And I was laughing yesterday because I felt like, who am I to talk about this, And that was hitting me from every which way. So I love that the simple phrase of I don't know, which is hilarious because when I applied it to medical practice, it was wonderful. I was 6 months out of residency and patient asked a question. I said, I don't know. And I turned the computer screen towards them, but we're going to look it up together. And also, I do want to warn you, if there's a doctor who you think knows everything and that's what they pretend, that's probably not true. Because as we speak, medical science is getting outdated and reinstated in many different ways. So I love the permission to say that phrase. I think that's so powerful.
I had a doctor once that came to me and she jokingly said she was an eye surgeon. And, eye surgeons know everything about eyes, every possible scenario. Why would you ever not think an eye doctor or surgeon would know? So, anyway, a patient asked a question that she did not know the answer to. Instead of saying that, she's like, "Excuse me, I have an emergency phone call." She went out into the hallway and she looked it up on Up to Date or something, whatever her thing she couldn't remember. So she could come breezing back in and rattle off the answer. And I was just laughing about that. Like, we're so scared, to say, I know where to find that. I will look it up and get right back to you. Or that's a great question. And the fact that she had to like make up a fib, go outside, look it up, to come back, to not profess to not know something made me laugh. But how many times have we done something like that, right? We sort of talk around the answer because we don't want to make it look like we don't know, or, we change the subject. And the more you hit things head on, I think you have more credibility. And trust me, I don't think patients are going to abandon you because you go, I don't know on that one thing. And your vast knowledge is out there in grand rounds. It's not so what are you trying to prove? You're already there. And one of the things that I had to remind myself is like, I'm already on this stage for a reason. And so you look back at your life and you go, I have to rest in the fact that I'm confident in what I've done and I believe in myself. That's the thing. When you start out, you're insecure because you don't really believe in yourself yet. It takes a while. But you'll get there. It doesn't take very long to start to feel more confident in your abilities. And then sometimes, every once in a while, it's not perfectionism. It starts creeping into like a mental illness.
Mhm.
And that's when,
Absolutely.
like I had a doctor come to me one time and he said, I can't stop rereading my charts. He got a complaint, a patient complaint or a board complaint. It was years ago. I don't remember exactly what it was. But he said, I'm going over every note 3 and 4 times, trying to catch errors and make it perfect. And he said, and I used to have OCD and I thought I got over it, but now it's coming back. And I was like, just recognizing that about yourself is huge. And he got treatment for it, but it wasn't just perfectionism. He's like, this is becoming more than that. This is unhealthy. And he went and noticed it and got asked his job for abbreviated schedule and started going back to his therapy and doing his routines and stuff. And it really helped. So I think that's part of it too. It's just, oh, it's just my perfectionism. No, it might be something else that you need to really pay attention to.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love that you talked about mental well-being and you brought it in there because a lot of times also we have studies and data that links, even if it's just perfectionism, it's linked to more anxiety, more depression, more loneliness, more burnout, all of those things. And yet, as I keep talking, there's a phrase that Dr. Thomas Curran, who's a lead perfectionism researcher, uses, which is perfectionism is not our favorite flaw. When you're sitting in an interview and they ask you, what are your 3 strengths and 1 weakness? And you're going to say, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. As a society, we are just putting so much pressure on ourselves. So everything that you just said brought that phrase front and center to my mind is like, it's so important for us to appear flawless. Even with that ophthalmologist stepping out and checking the answer, because the appearance of flawlessness. And as a society, we don't want to give that breathing space to physicians, to even other humans, right? You have to look a certain way.
Well, and the media just feeds on it. I mean, every Instagram ad is, you are not taking enough fiber. Your hair is going to fall out if you don't take our supplement. Right? Your skin looks like an old hag. You clearly need our skin serum. Obviously, you don't work out enough. So you need this, that, and the other. I mean, you're just like, you're right, I'm failing. You're right, I'm failing. Everywhere I look, I'm failing, and it wears on you. And so And so you just end up running around, I need to work out more. I need to eat more protein. I need to have more time for my kids. I need more wellness. I need a bubble bath, I guess. I don't know. What do I need? It floods you. And so part of it is just tuning off the noise, turning off the noise. Be recenter again with the people that you love. And it may be, dare I say, that you use a paper plate every once in a while. I'm just saying. I'm just putting that out there. Okay. You might need to. And like COVID was a good example of isolation really affected us. I mean, all of us deeply. It was so hard to be always on the screen. I mean, you never had human connection. And I remember we had a girls' night where a bunch of my good friends and colleagues, professional friends, had like a happy hour where they came to my backyard and we would sit on these folding chairs, like 6 to 8 feet away from each other. We're just like, we see you, we're here, we need each other. I don't ever want to go back to the fact that we lock ourselves in our houses because that set us back a long way because then the human element isn't there, which is forgiving and loving and there's chemistry. And so it's all Zoom, which means you have to be more perfect. You have to be more put together, because they don't know you. And so I think that it's really important to have stuff in person to connect and touch people, not in a weird way, but, hug and see each other and feel and smell and breathe humanity. And that plus humor, you're going to be able to deal with whatever perfectionism tendencies you have. I want to give people hope that they think, well, I can't seem to get out of this hole. You can. Just giving people permission. A lot of times what I do as a lawyer is to say, you're going to get through this. And they said, I didn't think I would. And now I feel a little bit of hope. And that's everything. Hope is why we breathe and live and work. And everything has to have hope. Otherwise, you just go, why am I trying so hard?
Amanda, that was beautiful. And what is coming for me front and center, as I hear you say, is compassion 360, not just compassion for others, but self-compassion. When you are pressing send on that email or closing that chart, however, you're performing this act of self-compassion. That's what it is. That's the kindest thing that you can do to yourself. And I have to absolutely echo with our need to be present for each other in a space that is like more embodied presence, because otherwise most of us are like a bunch of heads. We're just sitting there. But I always try to bring like, where's your physical presence? Like, can we have embodied presence with each other? Thank you so much for sharing that.
Well, you're welcome. And a lot of times people are more forgiving if they know you and they know your heart. A lot of times things can come across a certain way that you think, yeah, but that's not them. It's not their heart. I know that person. I know their motives. And so you are understanding of things. If you are churning out high quality work as a physician, as a lawyer, whatever, and then, you send an email that has a typo, they're not going to go, what a moron. No, I can't believe she has a typo. She doesn't know how to spell. I mean, they're going to know you. They're going to go, Amanda is super busy and look at this thoughtful thing that she wrote. And they're just not even going to notice the typo. Okay. And so you need to just stop worrying about it. How many times have I sent an email or edited a high power contract? Millions of dollars are at stake. And maybe I forgot to do something. Maybe I forgot to change something and something carried over from an old agreement and someone points it out. And yes, guess what I do? Thank you so much for pointing that out. We're going to get that fixed. You don't say, oh my gosh, I'm going to chastise myself. I shouldn't have done that. I should have checked it over. I can't believe I made that. You go, just thank you for pointing it out. And we're going to get it changed. And then you just move on. Look how easy that is. It changes your mindset from I made a mistake, I'm bad, I should double check this, I'm hitting myself over and over for this, to I'm really glad that we're a team and someone else pointed that out and we can now fix it and move forward.
Yes. And so on that same note, as you work with physicians and you protect physicians and protect communities so that they can continue to have access to their physicians, what are some of the things that you wish you could just, here are the bullet points, here are my pearls for you, and you see them struggle from perfectionism? What do you wish they know?
I guess what I would say is don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. You have so much to give. You've gone through all this training and people are depending on you. The more you let this cripple you, the less impact you're going to have on the world. Because it's going to stop you from writing. It's going to stop you from publishing. It's going to stop you from speaking. It's going to stop you from the beauty that you can put into the earth because you're so afraid you're not going to do it right. And we need people to write and to speak and to be present and to help. And so you've got to push past this barrier if you're going to get out there and do the most. I forgot who said, some writer, we'll find it after, but that you have to squeeze out every drop of your talents before you die. Don't waste any of them. Use it all up while you're alive. And so that's kind of how I see life. And that's why perfectionism is in direct contravention to that. It says, you're not good enough. Wait, look at it again. Don't send it. Don't write this book. Who do you think you are? And it's just that negative, and it just pushes you down. Instead, you can be like, you know what? My voice is too powerful to hide it behind this. It's not perfect. And everyone that knows who's written a book, I've written 2 novels. They're not published because I'm a crazy person, but you never are done. That character could be richer, the dialogue can be stronger, the humor could be funnier, everything could be better. And then you just have to say, I'm done because I want the story out there because I'm a storyteller and we have to tell stories. And so I think that that is overlaying, please, clients, young doctors, your voice being heard is way more powerful than making everything perfect.
Thank you so much for sharing all those insights. And as we wrap up, what is something you would tell yourself? I'm sure you get this question quite a bit, but I want you to answer this question through the lens of perfectionism. Maybe Amanda, 20 years ago, what would you tell her?
Well, I don't know if she would listen. 20 years ago is the problem, right? Because with age and wisdom, I was just looking, I'm writing a memoir now in another book I'm putting out in the world, and I was looking back at my early writing. I've been a writer for my whole adult life. And I was like, bless her heart. Bless her heart. Like, she did not know anything. That girl back then that was writing all these stories of hope and happiness and humor, she was so young. And so what I would say to someone that is, you're never going to get them to change because they think they don't know what they don't know. Right. But what I would say is be open. Be open to what comes into your life. Stop it with the plan, with the perfect plan, the absolute schedule, that everything is so regimented. Try to let that go. And you have to force it by doing things like traveling the world, seeing other cultures, having different friends that are outside of your normal friend zone, having people from different ethnicities and different races and energies and religions and all the different people. It opens your mind. That's the advice I would give, is be open to things coming into your life that enrich you rather than staying in your tiny little box, thinking that you have to do this certain little story that you've created for yourself because your parents told you it was right or because you thought that's what the right thing was to do. And just be more open-minded.
Of all the times I've done this interview, this would be the best and the most different advice that I have heard from any of the guests so far. So thank you, Amanda.
That sounds good then. Okay. It sounds a little off the wall maybe, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
That was wonderful advice. And I would take that advice in a heartbeat if I was in my younger times. And I absolutely want to lean into this because we do limit ourselves and we think, and part of that is that phenomena as well, like end of history illusion, that the person you think you are today is the person you're always going to be. So thank you again for sharing that and all your amazing presence with us and for the wonderful work that you continue to do out in the world.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. This episode is part of a special series and my budding book project on unmasking perfectionism. Thanks so much for spending time with me today. Just a quick reminder, while I am a physician, I'm not your physician, and nothing in this podcast is medical advice or any kind of professional advice. Everything shared here is based on my personal experiences, and the views expressed are entirely my own. If you enjoyed today's episode, I would love for you to rate, review, subscribe, and share the show with anyone who might need a little inspiration to redefine their own version of success. I'll see you next time. Until then, keep reimagining success one small step at a time.